reaching people. We're getting comments from Florida, we're getting comments from England, and we're getting comments from a couple different continents. So it's amazing who finds us. This class is about Louise Hay's book and her healing ideas. You've seen the book. Most of you, if you're in this class, have read the book. As you know, Louise Hay got her education here at First Center, formerly called First Church of Religious Science in New York, mostly under the teaching of Dr. Raymond Charles Barker. So the challenge with self-love, what is it? Well, that's the lesson. We'll talk about it a little bit. It's what we're always talking about here, ultimately. Most people, as you probably would guess, don't love themselves very much. Now, a lot of people would argue that they do, but my experience in dealing with this for some 35 years or longer is it's not really the case. When you really, really love yourself, everything in your life works. Not to say it isn't working now, because it is working. It's working perfectly. Life is outpicturing our understanding all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look. There's a huge problem with self-hatred in this country, and I'm sure beyond this country. It's a bigger issue than most people could possibly think. I don't think it's unique, again, to Americans. I've traveled to different parts of the world, and I see many examples of this. I've most often gone to South America, and I see some of my friends having issues with their own heritage there. The Indians are having issues, the lack of acceptance by the Spanish, and you see skin color and tone being an issue. Some are wishing they're darker, some are wishing they're lighter. People are wishing they're something other than they are in most cases. Different features, different ideas of what is successful and attractive. All of this is their own estimation, their own opinion that's playing out in their lives, though. And throughout my entire life, I've noticed people discounting themselves, not feeling adequate about their looks, their weight, their height, their ages, their education. There's a sense of unworthiness that's pervasive in a lot of culture everywhere. We can look to women of earlier times in particular, thinking that they could not survive without a husband. Now today, I think women think they can survive just fine without a husband, in many cases anyway. Or they would think in those days that there might be something wrong with them if they couldn't find one. And in those times, you know, women being very sad because they didn't have an opportunity to raise children, feeling there's a sense of guilt, or there's something not good enough about themselves. So these situations are many, and you can go backwards in time, and you can go up to the present, and you'll see this underlying current of I'm not enough and not good enough, and where there's so much self-rejection. Somehow in some way saying, I am not okay, I'm not good enough. I believe Louise Hay said in her book, you know, I've listened to thousands of people in different situations, but you can distill down through all the myriad of different people who spoke of different issues, it all really boils down to not feeling okay about who I am, how I am. And so there's these standards that are, been given to us, from the time we're kids. And it seems most of humankind is trying to live up to them. And they were passed on to us by people that we know, for the most part, meant the best. But nonetheless, those are the things that we have to work on as we go forward. In the early 1980s, some of you weren't around then, I realize. Many of you have forgotten that there was another pandemic circulating the globe. I was living right in the heart of it, and it was unbelievable. It was AIDS. And there was a tremendous fear and ignorance and tremendous suffering associated with it. People obtained a virus and it quickly circulated the globe. It only took a few years. Nobody was immune. It seemed to hit the gay population the worst, but I can attest as a counselor and as a therapist back then myself, and I was primarily, at least half of my career, dealing with women and babies who had AIDS. Nobody was immune from AIDS. There was so much ignorance and fear, and it was such an unpopular subject. The government was ignoring it. It was a tragedy in a way, because there's lots of things that could have been done if we educated people sooner. I think that was the subject of a book, if I'm not mistaken, called "And the Band Played On." You know, a lot was going on during that time. During that time, or shortly thereafter, is when Louise Hay emerged on the scene with the book "You Can Heal Your Life." And she did the famous hay rides from New York to California, and you can see pictures of her everywhere. And there's a movie, I think, called Opening Doors, where you see her sitting in a group of men who were fearful of dying and their health, and they weren't being welcomed by their families, and they had these internal dialogues of, I'm not okay and I'm not good enough. And I distinctly remember her holding a mirror up to a young man's face, and he's wanting healing, and she said, look into the eyes of the only person who can do that healing, which is you, right, with you. And she was a very compassionate woman, and her book has done tremendous good for the past decades. It's, I think, the largest selling non-fiction book that's been written, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. That's what it boils down to for most people. And we have all these standards that we hold ourselves accountable to. A lot of it's based upon fear and ignorance that have been passed on to us by people. And we're learning to love ourselves here in all of our classes. Every Thursday night in this class, I ask one important question. You all know what it is. And the question is, what has it been like being you this week? Okay, and that's such an important question because it determines what the rest of your week is going to be like. What really lives inside of you plays outside of you. Such a simple idea. Whatever lives inside of me, the tendency of my thought, that's going to play out as my day-to-day experience. This is the law of mind, this is the law of cause and effect, this is the law of correspondence. It's called many things, but it explains one reflective phenomena. Your consciousness is mirrored in your world. As people learn to love themselves, they come back to their original state. They come back to this fearless, beautiful, courageous state that they were as little children, babies. When you don't have self-love, you're afraid of making mistakes. You don't know really that life is giving you everything. It's giving you all green lights all the time. And you're hurting badly sometimes because you don't yet trust your ability to handle whatever comes your way. You know, when you were a little baby, you trusted everything, but you learned along the way not to trust. And people taught you who to be afraid of and what to be afraid of. Many on this call that will listen on YouTube and Instagram and elsewhere don't fully know our teaching yet. A lot of people think it's just as simple as the law of attraction. I see it and there it is. They don't realize that there's this thing called consciousness, and we need to work it out. We need to work it out in consciousness. Affirmative prayer is the most powerful prayer that anyone's ever known, because in order for it to actually happen, you need to have a shift in consciousness where you can embody, feel, sense, know the truth of your words. It's more than having a sticky note on a mirror somewhere. So we work on our faith, this kind of faith that can move mountains, that can heal, and we do it one day at a time, one thought at a time. We learn to live the affirmative life. What we teach you here every week in all of our different classes and processes is that there is that which is within you that knows everything and knows what you need and has access to everything you could possibly desire. In the beginning, many of you won't believe this, and many of you will be constantly looking for gurus. You'll be looking for coaches elsewhere. You'll be looking for some type of a savior or wise person or someone with otherworldly vision. You'll be looking for answers that only you could possibly ever have. Here's the big question for today. Do I really love myself with my whole heart? And you can only answer that. Do I really love myself with my own heart, my whole heart? If you have to think about it too much, you already know the answer to that question. If there's any hesitation to this question, then you already know the answer. That you probably don't love yourself as much as you would like to just yet, and that's okay. The fact that you're here is miraculous. The fact that you're in the discussion is great because it would suggest that you're ready to take a look and you're ready to begin to embrace greater ideas and let go of the lesser states of consciousness that have been holding you back. Louise wrote years ago, self-acceptance and self-approval in the now are the keys to all positive changes. Most come into our classes and workshops not fully trusting themselves, rather, with some kind of belief that they're going to screw up or that they're just not going to succeed or do well. Worse, they feel on some deep level like they are already failures. They look at their lives at 40, 50, 60, or 70, and they look at where they've messed up and the string of relationships and the pain, and they have more of a belief that they're going to fail than that they're going to fly and succeed. The purpose of all these classes is to turn all that around. There's a great song, I think Amy Bishop did in one of our conferences, I'm here to turn it all around. To turn it around for you to see that you have everything that you need, you've had it since the time you came into the world. And the purpose of the class, the work we do, is to learn to trust ourselves more and more and more again. A lot of people coming here in our extended audience spend a lot of time looking for other people for their answers, for their approval. This is an indication that they have a challenge, by the way. I was like that when I was younger. What we're going for here in our classes is to become empowered, to become enlightened, and to become much less needy. We know again that self-acceptance and self-approval are the keys to all positive changes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking people what they think on any subject that you might think of. And I only suggest be sure to ask of a variety of opinions, not just from one group. You will be deriving the benefits of different perspectives for you to ponder. Life is full of people with differing opinions, and this rich, diversified thought is all wonderful. You have an incredible mind and facility to distill information because you are an individualization of spirit itself. You have the capability within you to evaluate everything, so you can come up with answers that are your own, unique to you, each of you being individualizations of this one source. The challenge is to learn to love yourself, and it's to trust yourself to come up with your own answers and become an independent thinker. I'd suggest everybody here take another look, or for the first time, read through Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay on self-reliance. As I say often, there is that which is within you that knows. And tell yourself, I know, and I know that I know. If you're lacking in confidence, or you don't have enough self-love or self-confidence yet when facing any decision, any big decisions, or big or small. You might have a tendency to freeze when you're called to make a decision because you're used to looking to the right or left and asking somebody what to do. Many people consider their options and they have a really tough time deciding, and they feel anxious about it. Some people would tell you to listen to your gut, and you still don't have the answer. You don't know if the fearful feeling you're experiencing is a sign that you shouldn't make a decision, or it's just a lack of personal confidence. When you don't have self-love, everything circles back to self-love. When you don't have self-love, and when your self-esteem is not really very high, you're afraid of making mistakes. And you feel this way because you haven't learned to trust life and trust whatever is presented to you. See, in our teaching, we will understand that all events, circumstances, and happenings are helpful. But it takes a long time for people to come into that kind of faith, where you understand that all events, circumstances, and happenings are helpful. Usually when you're coming through the doors, you're yet to have that kind of faith. So, how do we get there? Maybe you're a person who's always turning to someone else to give you the answer. That in reality, you're looking for them to give you an answer that really only you can ever really know. That's the thing that's interesting. That's a person who's other referred. We're always going to be pointing you back to yourself and trying to suggest and help you learn to trust yourself, because the answers that are in you are going to be the ones that are going to be most helpful. When we look outside to others for our happiness, which seems to be what people do a lot, I'll be happy when he or she is around. You put people on pedestals, you're thinking or hoping they can give you the answers, or they'll know better for you what's right for you to do. You think people are in a better position somehow in some way than you, which leads you to trust yourself less. The good therapists and the good practitioners of our teaching are the ones that attempt to build you up to a place where you realize your own value and worth. They are not fortune tellers. They are all about the here and now and having you realize that you have access to all that information. When you're looking outside of yourself for healers and prophets and all the like, you shrink. When you're looking outside yourself for somebody to save you, you shrink. You become small. I know if your self-esteem is low and you feel everybody's superior to you in one way or another, you barely show up. You're playing your life in a very small way when you're here to be a superstar in your own life. Your default position is to minimize your own existence or your own voice. Let me ask you another question. Do you have a tendency to stuff your opinion and your thoughts because you think they're not wanted, or, my God, they would know me, what I really am like, just to be agreeable, to be as agreeable as possible? Are you a people pleaser in that way? Do you do that so other people can make decisions and you don't have to? Maybe you don't feel you're ready to. If your self-esteem is this low, you'll usually be a person who winds up in some type of dysfunctional friendship or relationship. You have a tendency to stay in relationships that aren't great, not great at all, because you're here to shine, and you're here to shine with other people who shine. You're not here to play your life in a small way. Our classes help you discover who you have come here to be and help you to learn to fly. Or are you a person that, what's the expression, you go along to get along, every day losing your voice a little bit and a little bit more? I learned a lot about being other referred by a great spiritual group I was involved in probably 20 years ago. If you're an other referred person, you're almost like a chameleon, always trying to do things to please other people, friends, partners, groups of people. You definitely lose out on pleasing yourself if that's how you're showing up in life. You're forgetting that self-love is the key, and self-acceptance is the key to your greater existence. You've not yet developed, if that's where you are, a clue of who you've come here to be. I mean, each of you here are superstars, and you're here to shine. Our classes assist you in waking up to the beauty that lies dormant within you. Regarding self-love, one of the biggest challenges, we must come to realize that if we're losing ourselves in our friendships and partnerships, that's the greatest loss of all. Lack of self-love can bring you to a terrible place. You don't want to shrink. I don't want to shrink. And, you know, you're here to fly and you're here to grow. We want to wake up and develop self-mastery and self-esteem and know that we are forces to be reckoned with, and we're here to shine and to share and to be bright and be brilliant. We're living in a time and an age where there's tremendous pressure to conform all over the place. Our teaching really celebrates your individual freedom to think as you choose. Please learn to be a thinker and to be authentically yourself. Listen to all the different opinions from everybody. Flip all the channels, hear everybody, and form your own, and trust yourself. Many people coming into our classes, they come because their lives don't work very well. They can be somewhat depressed, having tried everything it seems to make their life work materially and other. They get the status girlfriend, the boyfriend, whatever the material things. They've tried it all, and they seem to find us at the right time. The work we do with the louisehay material will transform you as it has done millions of people before you. Louisehay learned her material right here in this church center in New York. Just about everybody I know who is on a spiritual journey is on a spiritual journey. And that spiritual journey involves learning to love and honor the self. I've been on this journey for over 35 years, and I don't regret a moment of it. None of us need to get it all in one night. In fact, that would probably be impossible. We do, though, plug in regularly, 1 week at a time, and we commune with great minds. We read, we listen today to YouTube, but you commune with bigger ideas. We hitch our wagon to the stars. We work at it, and the dividends are great. Immediately, you'll start to see things start to shift. We must take a leap, a big leap, towards trusting ourselves. Once I did that, I received one breakthrough after another, and within a relatively short period of time, I rediscovered myself, I embarked on my new career, and I found friendships and loves that heretofore, before that, were just not available. If you begin to love yourself more and more, when you have self-love, you're going to have different kinds of friendships. You'll be attracted to different people, different employment situations. Truly the sky is the limit. You'll have boundaries in place where you'll say no to things that aren't good for you, and people will know that you're in charge of yourself. You'll be using what Ernest Holmes called your executive power more and more, because you do have power. Holmes said you have power. There is power for good in the universe, he said, greater than you, of which you're a part, and you can use it. And as you begin to love yourself, you will recognize, understand the power that is yours, and you'll know how to handle it. I could go on for another half an hour on this subject, but I think at this point I'm going to say all the power is yours. And I invite you to join in on our discussions every Thursday night, where we will approach it and we will remind you. Every single Sunday also, we will have a similar lesson with an opportunity for you to share. And we're going to be embarking on a couple of new spirit groups. So like us on all the social media pages. Feel free to make donations if you'd like to. We would always appreciate it. And at this point, I'm going to open up the call to people who want to share, and thank the rest of you who are joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. I'm being given a hand signal, so I don't know. You tell us what you have to communicate. Okay, we're going to take a quick break because they're trying to do something I don't understand. You guys got to have a smoother transition than